You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 12th, 2024 meeting of the Long Beach Building Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay. This is the Long Beach Building Commission's regular meeting, January 12th, 2024. We'll call a meeting to order at 1:03. First, we'd like to introduce and welcome Anita Remages, who is a council representative and new to the Building Commission. Anita has attended more meetings than some of our past members have, so I think she's pretty well versed in what we do here. So welcome, Anita, and thank you. Ken, as everybody knows, is our regular guy by Chris and Joy, she's the head of everything.
Yes.
Is on Zoom. Okay, so we're short two members. Chris said that we can still proceed. We just have to have a roll call vote, and it has to be unanimous, anything that we vote on. Is that correct? No, sorry.
No, that's okay. It would only be if you had the minimum number. You have to have a majority in quorum that's present in person. So you have that. And then Joy is able to be seen and heard. And so every vote has to be roll call, but otherwise it does not have to be unanimous.
Okay. Larry, I'm here. Dr. May, here. Anita Remages.
Here.
Ken Clausen. Here. Jordan.
Here.
Here. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting, which Honor sent out, I think last week sometime. Everybody get those?
Yes.
Any additions or corrections to?
No.
Being none, motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Anita? Larry, yes. Bob Lemay?
Yes.
Anita Remages?
Yes.
Ken Bosman? Yes. Joy Schmidt?
Yes.
Okay. Next up is the Commissioner's report. For December, we had 7 permits with construction costs of $303,887, which generated $3,374. The 2023 totals for the year, we had 252 permits that were approved with construction costs of $23,068,827, which generated fees of $219,344. For December, we received 119 calls on permits and/or information requests, received or responded to, sent 295 emails. We're starting to get our registrations in, so we received those and approved some. We're still in the MS4 game, so that's just standard issues. Any questions or comments on the Commissioner's report?
No.
Old business, MS4, I leave that in there just because it's continuing to grow. The town council, which I don't think that's been brought up to the new town council. And Bob, I'm going to ask you, we never did anything with the pay on the software, did we? I think has to come up before the council.
The pay,
how people will pay online. Do you remember if that was voted on or not at the council? I don't think it was.
I don't think it ever got.
Okay. I'll write something up and send that. It's called PayRock, is who they recommend, and
Yeah, I think that was waiting on all the training on the new permit process.
okay. The town council is before April 1st, we'll have to adopt the MS4 ordinance. Chris, I'm pretty sure, well, I know because I watched the meeting or was at the meeting. Chris and I are going to get together. We've got a few more things that we want to look at, you're probably better at describing this, Chris. It's basically, we have an ordinance in place, I think it's 156, and we think that this MS4 is going to supersede a lot of that. So that's the last thing that we have to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're just trying to, in addition to you reviewing and choosing the very few parts that we actually have an option to include or not, it's making sure that the current code reconciles with the addition. So, which is pretty voluminous. And like you said, probably most of it will be superseded and then get it before the council for their first consideration next month.
The annual report for MS4.
What was the ordinance?
The MS4 ordinance, Ken, came from, it was a conglomerate, I don't know.
A model ordinance. It's a model ordinance.
Boilerplate that was actually. So they went statewide, got everybody's input, they put an ordinance together and basically, aside from changing the jurisdiction name, and Chris and I have been through a few things that were optional. We're gonna keep some, and some I think we're not gonna keep, and that would be the recommendation to the council. And, but the last thing that came up is this 156, I think it is already a stormwater ordinance on the town of Long Beach's books. We want to make sure that we don't have dueling banjos.
Or conflict.
So basically, you had to do it first, review it.
Well, we're proposing, the council's gonna have final, I know that Larry circulated it before between APC and everybody else, but, you know, given your question though, I'll make sure that when it's presented to the town council, because I imagine they're gonna do it not in one meeting, but over a couple months.
Yeah.
That I'll copy the building commission, the APC, BZA, just because those were all potentially related matters, so that you can see the final product and give any thoughts that you might have on that.
I'll send you all ordinance today, when I get back to the office. The annual report, which is part of our MS4 permit, is a 3 or 5 year permit. But we have an annual report that has to be done. We've already, and I reported to everybody last year when we had our audit. We passed the audit. There were 2 minor things that had to be done at the town garage. Tom took care of those. So the annual report is also due April 1st. In a meeting this week with what's called NISWAG, which is in the stormwater group. The state is going to make it easy on us. They're going to give us a fillable form for our annual report. It'll be a matter of checking the boxes. We'll include some of the things that we have to add to it, and that'll be pretty simple. That does not require, I'll send it to everybody here, and I guess I would ask Chris, I don't know if I need to, the highest officer in the town, which is Joy, has to sign off on it. She's smiling about that. So, I mean, that's just.
Well, asking if there's something for her to be approved.
I think so the highest elected official, help me out here, you just had to sign the paper.
The town
If you had to read every word, but all 100 pages.
So we can't, I'm the MS4 coordinator, but I'll sign it, but it also will require Joy's signature. I don't think it needs
Approval.
council approval, but.
That's just your submission, your, yes.
Right. Any questions on the MS4? The coastal resiliency groups. This is just standard issue. There's a Joy set out in Shem, and is it Jeff Altman?
Yeah.
I think is the guy running that, Joy.
Yes, Jeff Altman's.
So that's gonna be sent in, and we made the initial presentation for the certification, and, I'm on that group that approves those. I won't be able to vote for ours, but I think we'll have a pretty good presentation. Stop 15 is through the park department. It's for the stop 15 improvements. Any
Final
questions on-
proposal just got submitted today, Larry.
Great. I can't remember what our meeting is, but I'll report back to everyone. Building department software, we're gonna start the training up again. And I'll talk to, as I mentioned earlier, I will set something up with the town council to approve the payroll processing. I'll get it to Chris, and then we'll just make sure that everything is done the way it's supposed to be done. Questions on that?
No.
15-14 plan review, this will be the second month that we're waiting on a site plan. If we don't get something, then the next month, we'll just take it up. 2506 Glendale. I met with the contractor on site. The deck is approvable because it is over existing driveway. The property itself is overbuilt, but there's really no reason for us not to approve the deck because it is over, it's not an additional coverage, it's over the driveway. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. And I explained to the contractor that they cannot add any stairs, anything over existing grass, whatever, because they're already well over coverage. I bet they're 70%.
Was that a site plan review, Larry?
We did have a site plan for that.
Because I don't think I saw one.
The permit came in. Hold on. So you can see this. This is Glendale down here in the bottom right. The deck, when you come off Glendale, you can see the driveway. This purple section here, that my mouse is moving back and forth, is the proposed deck. It is completely over the driveway. This section that is, my mouse is moving on here, is being removed. All of this pavers and patio area in the back is being removed. And this area is being removed. But this side doesn't show it, but this side has planters that are probably double the width of this block. So that's what puts them over the coverage. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on 2506 Glendale?
No.
Next up, and the attorney is here, Joe, is here on the Coon fence issue in Hoagland, and I forgot this street.
It's off,
Everybody,
it's off.
I mean, we,
No, I know.
you know,
Oh, yeah,
Does
yes.
everybody else remember what the issue is here? So I'm not sure, Joe, what you're gonna ask us, but
Well, on behalf of Bridget Kuhn, the owner of 2207 Florida, she is interested to know if the town is going to cite the owners of 2200 Hoagland for installing a permanent driveway without a permit to do so. I understand from a brief conversation with Mr. Willoughby that there may be some dispute as to when that driveway went in. My understanding is that it was put in sometime in the first quarter of 2023. Ms. Kuhn's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Harlan rather Kuhn, reside now in 2207 Florida. And they returned from their winter vacation in 2203. They discovered that this permanent brick driveway had been installed. And I got some documents. I asked that the commission take into account, perhaps enter into the record, which I don't have enough copies for everyone, but this is a survey that was dated in June of 2023. If you notice that the date at the bottom says 2022, but it was in fact taken in June of 2023. It shows that this brick paper driveway is encroaching on the property that belongs to this community. Here are the photographs on the boundary stake that the surveyor installed there. Strangely enough, the surveyor installed boundary stakes twice in this location, and twice they were curiously removed. Don't know who removed them, but I can only imagine that the only individuals who have been said to remove them would be the people that are at 2200 Hope. So again, if this driveway went in, permanent structure, permanent driveway that is over the property, and it was put in without a permit, then Mr. Kuhn was asking the commission what its intent is to, in terms of citing the owners of 2200 Hope for installing a permanent driveway without permit. If they're going to approve a permit, is the permit going to be subject to the condition that the owners of 2200 Hoagland remove the approach? There may be a question of whether there is adverse effect. 2200 Hoagland has actively possessed this property. I got a letter from Michael Bergerson when he was practicing attorney. It's dated May, well, actually, I think it's May 30, 2012. And it is written on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Carlin Kuhn. It's advising the owners of 2200 Hoagland, Andrew Ski, and I think it's Bernard J. Dillon, that the owners of Kuhn's are going to allow them to use the little bit of encroachment that was, as I understand it, was a non-permanent driveway. They were going to allow them to continue to use it, but they asserted their rights as homeowners. I've been followed up with a letter on June 6th of 2022. This is a few weeks after Ms. Bridget became the owner of the property, basically saying the same thing that Mr. Bergerson did, and that is that the Kuhns own that property. They're allowing you to use this non-permanent driveway with permission, but you don't have any rights to it, you don't have a license to it, you don't have an easement to it, you don't adversely possess it. This property belongs to Kuhn's.
question,
Yes,
that was for a gravel type drive.
correct. Now, again, these are, we're going to ask the commission to enter into the record. So, bringing back to the most recent events, that's when we got this, here's another permanent brick paper driveway that was put in. And, this is the encroachment. It's permanent encroachment. It's not much, it's a full line of these bricks.
it's about a 6-inch.
Yeah.
But it's less than more, a little over 4 by the time. I'm sorry, go ahead, Julie.
Well, that's essentially the end of my presentation. You've got a 6-inch encroachment here. You've got a permanent driveway that's put in without a permit. And, the question is, are buildings that are really just required cited for, installing the driveway without a permit? And if a permit is issued, it's going to be conditioned upon the encroachment being removed. Thank you.
Question, would the owners of the piece with the encroachment, would they be willing to extend that, use to the paper issue, or is it a different issue now?
I think it's a different issue now because of permits.
So,
So if we solve the permit issue, fine, whatever. The owners are still not, they have a paper, which is a permit. Correct.
Yeah, they're not agreeing to a permit.
Okay, all right.
I know this is a standing joke with everybody, but number one, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't, this is kind of out of my, I think, or the building commissions. I think our job, Chris and I have talked about this some. I think our job is we have to figure out if there was work done, the brick pavers, whatever were put in, obviously from your letter from when, right, when, in 2012, there was a gravel driveway there.
Yeah.
So,
Let me say that.
okay, thanks.
For your purposes, we don't care what Mr. Ferguson's letter said, and to Mr. Zachman's letter, those certainly support their position. There are two sides to this position. However, we can start with the second question. Can't answer what you are or aren't going to require with regard to any permit and any contingencies, because that isn't before you. So that may or may not be, depending on what gets presented, if and when, right? So that's the answer to that question. But don't know. Normally, is that your customary procedure? That's why you guys require stake surveys, particularly when there are boundary issues, right? So that you make sure there aren't encroachments. Is that likely? Yes, but we can't give a definitive answer on that. Or you cannot. I don't give any answers. But first and foremost, it gets back to the same issue. You have the ability and need to determine when the work was done. That is a crucial issue as to timing and enforceability of any violation of the code. If there's a violation of the code, we've talked at previous meetings. We need to focus on that, determine when that work was done based on the information we can get. I think that we have, unfortunately, we have this issue between neighbors that we can't fix for them. We've encouraged both sides to work with each other, you know, as Mr. Quadler has inquired, and our efforts on that front are futile today. So it is your charge to see if there is a violation and if there's an enforceable violation. And if work was done and it required a permit and a permit wasn't issued, then your standard procedure is to issue a citation and require it and or take action to remove it, right? So those are the things that should happen. Those remain to be done. And those are what I recommend for you. And as Mr. Duncan indicated, we did have a conversation. There is an enforceability. If that has been there for a period of years, then you might have an enforceability issue, and then it becomes wholly civil. We have a little bit of each here, right? We have some potential code violations, and then they also have some issues to figure out based on our conversation, but take this with a grain of salt, because the neighbors appear presenting their side or their surveys or responses to those letters. We don't know, right? Right now you have a resident saying there's an encroachment and we want it addressed.
Yeah, first and foremost, did we establish that they did in fact have a permit? Or did not have a permit to put a driveway? We discussed this at a prior meeting.
We did, after the last meeting, Honor and Deanna, because Honor hasn't been here in what, I think 2 years. So the Honor researched our, let's call them current records, since I've been around, let's say, and then Deanna searched prior that she had. How far back those go, I don't know. So we know that there was no permit for a brick paver driveway.
Okay, and, Joe, you did establish that it was in 2023 that they put it there.
That is when the Coons came back from their winter vacation, in or about April of 2023, that's when we discovered.
But it was not there when they lost COVID.
Well, and that's where I think we have to separate ourselves. My recommendation to you is gather our own and confirm. And I have reached out just for the commission's consideration. I have done as I always do, right? This town shouldn't be and hasn't been, and I never recommend that you're litigious first. I have reached out to the other landowner or the neighbor here, and I have encouraged, hey, we need to get this done, that we need the information. And so obviously it's time to take a little more formal action, because I want to reiterate here that each side has a position and they're different. And so again, there might be a civil action that happens. That's not our problem or purview. It's gaining, and then this is one where you're gonna have to make a judgment call and demand that information. For instance, if the neighbors can't provide when they did and receipts and a contractor and invoices to show they did it, let's use as an example of 2020 or 2021, well, that leads you to believe that, you know, this position is probably right and there's a violation, right?
Chris, I'm really trying to establish that the pavers were put in recently within a time frame,
Yeah,
so we can act on it.
and my response is that it was intimated that might not be so. So you're gonna have to make a judgment call, is my position. The other side is indicated, but I don't have anything in writing. They do, right? They have an attorney before you, they have documentation. So you and I are saying the same thing.
Yeah, based on what's been presented, the driveway's been put in, recently, last year. And we found out that there was no permit issue for the work, so that's pretty cut and dry from our perspective here.
Well, can we see on Beacon where the one?
That's what I'm giving you right now. So this is the property, the blue box.
Okay.
This is, you can see on here. So this is this was in April of 2023, the driveway.
That's the gravel.
Pardon me?
That's the gravel, right?
That looks to be gravel. So if you look at that, and then I'll go back to March of 2022.
Joe, obviously, you guys weren't able to determine who the contractor was because he hadn't presented permit.
This is March of 2022. It basically looks the same as it did before.
Where's the driveway there, Larry?
The driveway was there from this really doesn't help us much. All you can see is the car parked there.
Well, to be clear, so what you're showing is the neighbor's property, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, but based on these beacon lines, which isn't gospel, right, or lack of a better description, that shows one thing, their survey shows another. And it may be that the neighbor has a survey that it's not out of the ordinary, it's not likely, but that there's another survey, or will be. But again, for our purposes, it is taking our best guess based on making an informed decision of what.
I met with Dr. Bridget Kuhn and her brother. I can't tell you exactly what it was. I don't know if they told you what day it was, but I could look back in my notes and figure it out. I would say it was in June.
I think that's right.
It was June or July of 2023. And I mean, I could look down and this is what I felt. Which I can't bring up there, but I'll point it out to you guys. See that little pink where the arrow is? That's what's called a PK arrow. It's what a surveyor pounds into the ground. See that? Oh, you see it. So this, according to the survey that the Coons had done, this was the property line. And this is encroaching, or actually not encroaching, it's on the neighbor's property, on the Coons property. So, and then also, if back the property.
But you installed the driveway right over the nail.
No, the nail was put in, the survey was done after the driveway was installed. And well, you can see this is, I guess so I went back there a second time to meet with Bridget, and that was gone.
Yeah.
As well as the stake that was in the back of the yard.
And your sign paid for the survey?
Yes,
Okay, so as Chris has told me, and so that, who pulled those up, I don't know, nobody knows that, so.
That looks gravel, right? It doesn't
Yeah,
have very
so
distinct.
that's in 2018.
Okay.
I mean, I can go back years, the earliest one that we have is 2008. Hold on a second, it'll come up.
We really only care back to 2020. For enforcement purposes. And as you look in there, you're doing that. The only thing that addresses and concerns whether they have to rip out or they could or couldn't do that, there's a permit, is that they have a survey, right? They have dueling surveys. For instance, in my private practice, we have an instance where there's dueling surveys and they don't agree. We don't have that in front of us. The issue before you is, was a permit required? I don't even care about those other 2 bricks,
Okay.
2/4 of the bricks, right?
Okay,
Do they have a driveway? Did they have to have a permit for it? Did they get it? And if they didn't have a violation?
But it's important that we establish when it was done, because our fines have changed substantially over that period of time. Remember, it was about a year ago that we increased the fine to $500 for the owner and the contractor?
No, well, there's a timing, that depends on which applicable to both was later in the year, but the timing is important. Again, back to our making an informed decision on that, for sure.
so the picture, and I don't know if this is what, Chris, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but for us to get off dead zero here, this picture is from April of 2023. That's correct. When I went out in June or July, there was pavers there. So I can tell you that the brick was put in sometime between there. So
What was the date on this? When it was
this is April of 2023.
April of 23.
Yeah, that's a non-issue, right? There's,
Right.
but
So Chris, you
news
know,
to us.
when we changed our ordinance and the fine,
No, it was after, we can.
we should find out.
Right.
You know,
Our ordinance was changed
It
after.
was after.
This is 2022, just to back up to 2023, but it's the same thing. So I'm gonna say, yes, I mean, I'm not gonna say, my opinion is, and I guess then we'll have this fact. It's that this was gravel at the start of 2023. And when these pictures were taken, when I was there on site in June, Rick were there. So I think what Chris has advised us, and then I'll leave it to you guys to discuss. The work was done without a permit, we'll issue a citation. The dollar amount of that citation isn't up for discussion because it's either gonna be X because it was done before the ordinance was changed, or Y because it was done after the ordinance was changed. So what we have to have is a discussion amongst us and come to a decision what we want to do. Is that in line, Chris?
You're the decision maker, Mr. Clark.
Okay, good to know. Anita?
Very simple.
I'm good with the citation because I don't think it's up to us to be legal and send Seth and Jay a letter and say, when was it done, give us the information. What you're saying is all we have to do is issue a citation, given the fact that we've researched it, that there was no permit. So I'm
Yes,
good with that.
because the clouding of whether they're encroaching or not, that'll come out if and when they file a permit, right? Then they can present their version of a survey and then they may have a civil back. That's something separate. That doesn't involve you. And if they can't provide that, well, then that lends it to what's been presented to you already, that I believe they were going to have a survey, that survey from Global. Yeah, so I don't know. It's up to them to present something that's different.
Okay.
So between, the Google there, April of 22 and June of 23, this document had a new
Was April of twenty.
April of 23.
June of 23.
Okay. Is that April, is that a 23,
I believe so.
This is March of 22.
Oh, it is.
This is April of 23.
Okay. All right, so it's established the time frame that the driveway was put in.
Yeah.
That's right.
We researched our records that no permit is not pulled for it.
That's correct.
So there, I mean, there's no argument there that they, did something wrong without a permit to get a fine for that. The second thing is, if it's gonna go any further, they should, and maybe this is part of the permit process, that they should provide a legal survey of their own with that permit application. Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
You stop.
Think,
Well, I'll go one step further, and you know, if you're inclined to get it off sooner, they've been before you. Several times, and we've given the other, is we have the 10-day letter that we've sent others, right? So in addition to citation is the letter that says you're on notice, and if you do not take action, the town may hire a contractor, the town may remove that and lien your property and move forward that way. So
yeah, Chris, the second part of the citation is the contractor as well. We did not establish who the contractor was. Once we find out, I do believe according to our ordinance, the contractor would be subject to a fine as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, it would be secondary fine if he was not registered in the town at the time of the work. Is that
potential revocation, yeah, so we need to find those out. We can put all that in a demand letter to them. To demand that information.
Okay,
So, yeah, so I think we need to establish when the work was done. We know now from what we looked at there, between April of 23 and June of 23. So we need to find out which of our fines was in effect when it happened. I hope it's not between those days, but it might be.
Yeah, I think your motion is just that you're gonna move forward and authorize Larry to issue citations.
And I agree about, of course, the tearing up of the driveway. We're going to give them time limit as to when to produce for us documentation of when it was done, who was done that. And if they don't do that, then we need to.
Or to get to the process, right? You've allowed others, not that it's precedential, particularly if they're egregious and turn their head to it, but, you know, if they timely get a permit in and start to do what they're supposed to do, well, then less likely to take enforcement action because they're on the way to comply and pay their fines. And then likely they're gonna have a roadblock at some point anyway, because the surveys are going to become an issue. But again, it's authorizing Larry's citation, and then if you're in 5 minutes in that 10-day letter, maybe that gives a little more heat to it.
I agree with that, both.
Joy?
I agree.
Okay, how about a motion then?
I move that we send them the citation after we do the research to find out what fine we're talking about. And we also send them the 10-day letter telling us that, you know, they need to submit to us a permit and they need to submit to us the contractor and the exact day it was done.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
No. And that proof of when it was done needs to be a receipt from the contractor or something like that. You know, because we can't just take somebody's word on it, because obviously we're beyond that.
Joy Schmidt,
Yes.
Ken Clausen,
Yes,
Anita Remington,
Yes.
Bob Lemay,
Yes.
Larry Wall, yes.
thank you.
Okay, next up, Nick Trail, same thing, we asked for, it's a ramp. Honor has asked, I think at least once, if not twice, we told the contractor to apply for the permit, we just need a site plan, of what they're doing. That has not come.
Is that again, right?
Yes. Next up is, wait, what are you guys here for?
Pre-approval.
Oh, okay, well, why don't we do that now, so you don't have to sit through the rest of it. We're in new business, and the 2313 Oakenwall, we got the drawings last, week ago today. I'm assuming everybody has got them, Hunter sent them out. So, they applied for a plan review, which I'm in the middle of. I don't know if you guys have looked at it yet. And then we'll get back to you guys with basically, which I think everybody understands, and Edie, you might be new to it. So the difference between a plan review and a permit, when somebody applies for a permit, they're saying, hey, we want to build this. Here's our money, we'll bring it up at your meeting and we'll go. So a plan review, what they've asked us to do is look at it and find out if there's any issues, if there are setback problems, height problems, coverage problems, and then we would let them know so that they don't waste their time coming back. So I'm in the middle of doing that with you guys, with your stuff, and everybody else will have to too. I can imagine I should be done probably mid to end of next week, and I'll ask these guys, and then we'll just tell you. And I'm assuming, I noticed I think you want to start in March, right?
It's a good shoot, or we're shooting for demolition, so that's another question. It will require demolition.
You know, I think you better step up here, sorry, just hit that button so that microphone turns red and tell us who you are, and then we'll go.
Eric DeRicky of the construction, 2313 Oakenville. So yeah, we sent it in for that, just to make sure there's no issues. We don't want to have to keep coming every month.
Right.
We don't believe so. Thorough look at setbacks, septic permit has been applied for and approved. I don't think there's really anything else. It's just more or less,
No, that's,
just so you guys get it eyes.
right, if you meet, we're a black and white, you either meet rules or you don't. If you didn't, then the next step would be BZA, but from what I've looked at so far, it meets it. And I know Heidi pretty well, I've worked with her a lot, she usually doesn't send stuff in unless it's.
So that's what we would just get it into you, let you take a look at it, and then if everything was good, we'll bring the permit application in.
Great.
So you guys are on the corner of Oakenville and Large.
Yeah, here's
So that's
show you exactly.
little old house that I've
Yes.
walked by many times. Yeah, and their fencing kind
And the fence is gone.
of, the fence is gone now. Okay.
Everybody always called it from when we were kids, the knot house, because the knots were the ones that owned it.
Huh?
But you know, if you build that house, you have to put all those Christmas decorations up there.
Here.
That's actually, so it's this property right here.
And you have to leave all the deer in
Oh,
the
wait, no,
backyard.
that's the long street.
I'm your neighbor.
It's these two lots right here. Yes, that's right. There's something wrong with the club parking. So it's these two.
And the
So Eric, I should be able to get back to you next week.
So we don't have to wait for the next meeting to hear back from you, you'll just reach
No,
out.
I'm gonna tell you, and then what you would have is our February meeting is the second Friday. You just have to be in the Friday before.
We would just have to have the completed permit application in.
Right. From what I see, and I probably shouldn't say this, if Crystal would honest me for saying it, from what I see, if everything's fine, then you would just fill out the permit, send a check in with the permit, and, you know.
And that's what honor it to, so we're just,
Yeah. Septic permit, you said you already have.
it was submitted with the plan review.
Great. So I think we'll be in good shape.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Next up.
Sorry. First one. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is, I think Gary's on here, but.
Yeah, somewhat.
2611 Roslyn Trail, the Rose, project. 90% of this work, I can bring this up. Does everybody know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
90% of the work is interior. I'll bring up the,
I couldn't find the coverage calculations on this one.
they're on, that's what I'm looking for, Joy.
That address is right, 2611?
Yeah. Hold on, I'm opening a couple of things. I just have to find them.
2611, it should be on the same sheet that I sent through to you.
Yeah, I've got it here. Just bear with me.
The lot coverage is 16.10%.
Hold on here. I've got it. I just have to get it, bring it up here. Come on. You know what I'm doing wrong here. Yeah, well, I'm trying to share this. I can't get this. This is. So I see all. Yeah, this is the meat. Oh, wait.
Yeah, Joy's there, Joy's there.
I just know how many.
Oh, you know what, she's froze.
Huh?
Joy's, yeah. Where'd that come?
Enjoy and Larry, how many people came together? I know you have a number of people join.
Yeah, might be an issue.
Here it is. It's up there.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, very good. Okay, so here's the cover. It's up on the screen. This was the second. I said it's in a list from here asking for lot coverage in a couple of other things. So here's the lot coverage. 16.1%. The lot is 19,787.75 square feet. The coverage is 3,085.76. So what they're doing is, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to the other one because this doesn't go.
You got it? Yeah. Oh, did you just send it to me?
Yeah. I get to the other one.
Okay, so you can see this one. See this little section here? This is a deck right now where it's right below 25.5 and the 13. That's a wood deck. They're removing that. Or actually, the wood deck is here, putting a new stall stupid here. This section in front. Can you guys see where my mouse is moving? This section along here, back to here. This is the existing front door right now. This is new. It's 45 feet from the property. Actually, it's not 45 feet, that's to the house. But let's say that's a Gary, you know how deep that porch is?
I'm gonna say it's approximately 5, 6 foot deep through most. I mean,
Let's say it's
you have the construction plans, so, yeah.
even if it's 10, they're still within the front.
Right.
The only other thing is the chimney in the back. This is a back entrance right now where I'm circling. They're closing that up so that it's no longer an open entrance area. So they meet the coverage. There's no encroachments. Well, there's no proposed encroachments, so let me put it that way. So there's really, I would recommend that we approve it.
Yeah, I don't see where I made any objections when it came through, so I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second,
I'll second.
got that on her?
Yeah.
Yes.
Larry Wall, yes. Bob Lemay.
Yes.
Anita Remages.
yes.
Ken Clausen.
Yes.
Joy Schmidt. Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. Next up is Montclair Way. There is no address. It's the Dunn property. If everybody has the information on them. I've talked to Gary Green, who was the same guy on the previous one. Hopefully I can do this without ruining everything I've got going here.
What address we on there?
There's no address, Bob. It's on Montclair Way. It's known as the Dunn.
I got it.
Let me type it in here and I can pull up.
We're in process of trying to find out who we get addressing from, whether that's Michigan City, LaPorte County. I don't know who controls addressing this section.
That's actually done here. I think it goes through the APC, Chris, is that correct?
Say that again.
We'll find out.
Yes. APC.
It goes to the APC. They actually just assign you an address. It's not something that either we nor you have any,
Right.
I'm gonna try to remove some so we can do it here. Does everybody have this on their machine? It's that coming up. Here's. Joy, do you have this on? You have the
That's right.
site.
Yes, I have it.
I think I got it. Okay, so I want to share something that's there. This is not my computer, so I'm a little bit of it. I want to share this. Well, I go to here. It was doing it fine. So I want to share the screen. Here we go.
You just need the night that we got it.
Right. Thanks, Renee.
No problem.
Okay. So,
You could get that.
Right, so here's, first up, I had asked Gary, I said there's no exterior walks, stairs, or any other improvements at the drawings. This is fairly unusual for a new home. I spoke with Gary, he said there will be no walks. So if everybody can see this screen here. This is the house where I'm circling here. And Gary said there's no walks. See this driveway? Let me see if I can.
Larry, if I can, basically, if you look at topography, this is fairly steep slope and the back of the house continues up. So majority of our living space is going to be in front. Basically, we're trying to nestle this house into the side of the slope. So that's, why we really don't have any outside living space on the top side.
So that was the first question I had. It's unusual to build a house with absolutely no decks, no walks, no sidewalks, whatever. So Gary has assured me that that is not, they are not going to put any in. So what we see here is what they're doing. There's an existing tree house and steps, which are back here, that were not included in the coverage. But Gary said they're taking those out. There was some discrepancy in this site plan and the original site plan sent to us, which was a hard copy. I calculated from the topo lines, the height and whatever. I wanted to make sure, which Gary assured me that they are at the 29 foot something, which is
The overall house is 29. If you look at the gradient difference, we're at about 29 foot. So our goal is to basically use the house as retaining against that slope.
So that question was answered. The last question was up on this section. If you look at this, I don't know why I can't zoom this up, but I'm not going to keep scrolling. Does everybody understand this is where the driveway is? Mount Clear is down here. The driveway comes off Mount Clear Way. and then it comes up. This is a carport. Where this white section clear is, this is the house itself. There's actually a house above the carport or open deck, whatever. But I was concerned that this length of the driveway on what I'm gonna call is the east side of the house, that's a very steep grade. And Gary said no, that if the driveway was planned to be a grade on top of the existing, then you don't need retention. So I wanted to make sure that Gary and the owners know that they cannot put retention there because it's into the setback. If they were going to put retention there, this is a 10-foot side setback. You can see this mark here, right here. They're allowed to put the driveway into that setback. They're not, however, allowed to put any retaining walls. So if it becomes evident that the driveway needs some type of retention, they would have to go to BZA to get that. Other than that, everything else on here is fine.
So in your opinion, Larry, is them building that, putting that driveway there, liable to require them to put retention in at some point?
Well, it's a pretty steep grade, and I mean, I can tell you just from the construction standpoint, myself, our company has put in driveways that were that steep, but I just want to make sure that Gary and the homeowners understood that at the building commission level, we could not approve any retention along this east wall here.
Just so you know, I did make my client aware of the potential of that. Anytime that you're working in a steep slope situation, these issues could come up, and he's prepared for that.
To address that issue, if you were inclined to approve it, you could simply just put a condition on the permit, that approval to make sure.
Sure, I figured that's what we would do.
Condition to do what? To say what?
That is built as this site plan goes. I brought the question up. I brought the question up, Bob, because I'm very familiar with the lot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably know where it's at too. It's the old Phyllis Waters house, which is this house here. And Phyllis owned this lot and it was sold off. And it's a very steep lot. So where this runs back, this line on the east property line, this is Summit Drive, which is almost like an alley back there at Stop 29. And I'm sure that this was done over the years because people figured that they would build something up high here and have access through the back. The Dunns, these particular owners, have decided not to take advantage of that. They're going to come up from the street side or the Montclair Way side, and their house is let's say lower on the lot than something else. So they meet the height requirements, they meet the setback requirements, and the driveway is okay, it's approvable without retention.
And I guess we really don't have the authority to say, we think you need retention, you're liable to be asking for a variance once the erosion that we anticipate is going to happen. But we can't really say we can't approve it based on your wisdom as a contractor. And, you know.
I'm going to play it on Ken.
So we can't really say that. If it meets the ordinance, we
Right,
can't deny it,
right. So their proposal as brought to us meets the ordinance.
Yes.
I just, for my own purposes, because I'm the building commissioner, I want to make sure that there isn't an issue down the road that both Gary and the property owners understand that if they do need retention, and if anywhere on that eastern section, if it's within 10 feet of either side lot, they have to get a variance. We cannot approve that. You know, I don't want that to stop the project, but Gary has said it. And I'm not going to speak for him, but he can tell you, he told me when we talked about it, that no, the driveway is planned to go on grade.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about parallel between this and the situation with the Bernicki's that's before the BZA now. where you advised the Bernicki's not to tear down their house, and they did it anyway. And this is sort of similar to that. You're saying, we're concerned you're gonna need retention, and they're gonna go to BZA, and then is BZA gonna look at it and say, well, Larry warned you? You know what I'm saying? So that, I guess there's no way around that, though, is that right? It'll be up to the BZA bottom line.
Well, and I think the difference is there was a non-conformance
Yeah.
that made the canvas clean and
Yeah.
they could conform, the Bernicki participant. This one, it will be a situation that would develop, and it might well support a variance because there is a difference, but they are in compliance right now. They're not doing anything out of compliance. You know, if I, in Larry's wisdom, given that's the word of the afternoon, it would be advisable to do, right? And then maybe go get a variance. To say, because we want to be proactive, but there isn't anything that requires them to be proactive. And so I don't think they're apples to apples because they're not in compliance. Nature just may take over and require that they have to do something. Probably puts BZA, not to commit to BZA, obviously, puts them in a tough position in the future that if retention is necessary, it'd be tough to tell them not to, but you can't approve that right now, so you're doing as much as you can.
Yeah.
You know, one of the other things that I'll mention is, I know lot coverage is always a concern. At this point in time, if we were to be required, by virtue of grade to add retaining wall, we still have a substantial amount of coverage left. Again, my goal is not to have this, the same with the client. I'd like to, do a good driveway base that, limits the amount of erosion and, stay as close to grade as possible. But if we did have to come before the BZA, we're not asking for a variance, for lot coverage. It would only be the setback issue if that were the case.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that all of us here, this group, understood what we're looking at, and we want to make sure that, you know, we don't have a problem down the line. So, any discussion, anybody have? No? Or, Joy?
No discussion.
Okay.
So the good thing is we have it on the record, your concerns. BZA, if it comes to them, they'll be able to look at this and decide.
Right.
And that's what it basically happened in the other situation too.
I guess we'll entertain a motion to,
So moved.
Bob,
Well, before you go further, might I suggest that you make that condition on the permit though, that
okay,
without any consideration or consent for the retouching, however Larry would suggest that you word that.
So that's right.
okay, so the motion before us is that the, permit be approved with the caveat that there is no retention being proposed, and if retention is required, it is outside of our ability to approve it. It would need various.
Well, it wasn't asked.
Right. Second,
Also,
Ken? Larry, yes. Bob Lemay?
Yes.
Anita Remington?
Yes.
Ken Clausen?
yes,
Joy Schmidt?
Yeah,
You are watching
Okay.
Access LaPorte County,
That's it.
Channel 97.
Any comment from the commission?
Coming up next is a January
Seeing
26th,
none, any public comment? I don't think
2024
there's anybody
special
left.
meeting of the Long
Thank you.
Beach Town Council.
Okay,
You can
that's
find
your-
more information for this meeting by visiting
Next meeting is February 9th, 1 o'clock. Motion to
accesslaportecounty.org.
adjourn. Bob Lemay, second.
You
I'll
are
second
watching Access
All
LaPorte
those in
County,
favor?
Channel 97.
Larry, yes. Bob?
Coming up next
Anita?
is a January
Yes.
25th,
No.
2024 meeting of the Long Beach Police Commission.
Joy?
You
Yes.
can find more information for this
Yes,
meeting
thanks,
by
Joy.
visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org. You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Long Beach Public Works Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org. You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 12th, 2024 meeting of the Long Beach Building Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org. You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Long Beach Park Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.